So this is week 40 from Rays of the One Light. The title is The Law of Karma, Bondage or Soul Release. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. The Epistle of St. Paul to the Galatians contains this often quoted statement: "Be not deceived, God is not mocked, for whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap." In Autobiography of a Yogi, Paramahansa Yogananda tells a story from the life of the Benares Saint Nayaswami. A skeptic once determined to expose Trilanga as a charlatan. A large bucket of calcium lime mixture used in whitewashing walls was placed before the Swami. "Master," the materialist said in mock reverence, "I have brought you some clabbered milk. Please drink it." Trilanga unhesitatingly drained to the last drop the container of burning lime. In a few minutes the evildoer fell to the ground in agony. "Help, Swami, help," he cried. "I'm on fire. Forgive my wicked test." The great yogi broke his habitual silence. "Scoffer," he said, "you did not realize when you offered me poison that my life is one with your own. Except for my knowledge that God is present in my stomach, as in every atom of creation, the lime would have killed me. Now that you know the divine meaning of boomerang, never again play tricks on anyone." The well-purged sinner, healed by Trilanga's words, slunk feebly away. Yoganandaji goes on to say, "The reversal of pain was not due to any volition of the master, but came about through unerring application of the law of justice, which upholds creation's farthest swinging orb. Men of God realization like Trilanga allowed the divine love to operate instantaneously. They have banished forever all thwarting cross-currents of ego. Not by reason alone, but by self-realization, are the ins and outs of destiny fully understood. Their web, though tied forever to the post of ego motivation, is too intricate to be perceived as a single thread. Only great masters can see it with clarity. It is visible to them in all its workings, not from within the tangle, but from above in superconsciousness. As Sri Krishna said in the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, "He who beholds inaction, and action in inaction, is wise among men. He is one with spirit. He has attained the true goal of action and perfect freedom." Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om, Om.
From Whispers of Eternity, from Whispers for Eternity by Paramahansa Yogananda. This is entitled, "Make Me the Eagle of Progress." Make me an eagle of progress, soaring far above narrow lanes of bigotry. Call me to soar ever higher and higher, far above all clouds of earthly pettiness. With the sharp talons of my soul I will tear the little squabbling birds of misery which prey upon mankind. I will free my mind's skies from the buzzards of cynicism which prey on carcasses of dead hopes. I will soar on balanced wings of wholesome living, high up into the finest regions of divine perception. High above the hurricanes of earthly preoccupation, I will soar higher and higher to those unimagined heights where thou alone dost dwell. Make me thy eagle of ever upward progress. It's a joy to be with you all again. We've had a bit of a gap. I think it's been more than a month now because of all the holidays and different occasions. We haven't had a month of inactivity by any means, but in terms of satsang itself and this particular flow, it's been a while. So anyway, it's nice to regather. I was appreciating this reading this morning because we read from Rays of the One Light often, in fact, in most of our centers all the time, every Sunday. And sometimes we read from others of Swamiji's books on a Sunday satsang, but primarily it's this one. And I was reflecting over these, it's probably been more than 25 years now that I've heard this reading on week 48 of every year. And it's so thrilling because not just this reading alone, though I'll come back to that, but as I probably should since it's today's topic, but the whole arc of the teaching, Swamiji wrote out these readings from the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita, again, because that was Master's way to share from the Bible and the Gita primarily. When asked by someone once, why do you call your church the church of all religions, and yet you focus primarily on just the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita, he said that was the will of Babaji. At other times, he gave more expanded answers and sort of more philosophical context and so on, which is perfectly valid and helpful intellectually, yet he was also showing us and telling us, I'm not here of myself. I didn't make these decisions in this particular way. Of course, the masters are one with God, and so they probably all do sort of say, God, you are one with us, and we'll all operate together. But still, he played the role of disciple of his masters, of Sri Yukteswar, his guru, certainly, but of also as the emissary of this line of masters to all of us. And so it was also, that's more helpful for us too, because in our growth, do we need the example of an avatar and say, okay, yes, that's what I'm working on today? No, we're working on a few things before that. And so do we need the example of a disciple, how to be a good disciple, how to be a good student of truth? If you just see somebody sailing along without any obstacles ever, all we can do is just applaud and say, good for you. And yet when we see somebody facing challenges, overcoming them, that's really something we can work with, not only to take the lesson, but also the inspiration. Swamiji once came to give a talk, and it was a filming session, but there were a lot of people who came from out of town to see it. This was in India. And he talked about, before the filming started, about how he had fallen and he'd had an injury here, how he woke up in the middle of the night with a nosebleed and he couldn't get it to stop, all this. He was always working out karma. I don't think it was his karma, I think it was ours, on his body. And he ended by saying, quoting a line from somewhere in America, I don't know where, he said, I've got problems, you've got problems, all God's children got problems. And it's a very helpful thing to remember, not that we have problems, but that we're all growing. We're all working on it. Sometimes if we have a problem that's too heavy, we can feel all alone in it. I'm the one person, left on earth who hasn't yet attained God, and everybody else just, all they do is have tea parties and crumpets all day long, but here I am just slogging it out in this dungeon. It's not true. We're all in the dungeon together, if you want to put it that way, or we're all having tea and crumpets in the dungeon together. But it still is, this is a school. This is a place for us to learn and grow. That is the point. And so when we come back to this law of karma, even the title, do we think of it as a law of bondage or a law of soul release? When we think of karma in sort of the textbook definition of it, it is, this is what you've done in the past, these are the unpaid debts, and so you have to pay them. Don't forget, karma is also the good spiritual earnings you've put in the bank that are helping to propel you forward now. So it's both things. It's not just the bad karma. Karma is not bad karma only, there's good karma too. And for many of us, though we may come to the path, actually after a period of suffering, because we may come into this life, at least was my experience and not an uncommon one, thinking that, oh, I'm here on the playground and there's the merry-go-round and there's the Ferris wheel, there's the giraffe, the petting zoo and all this, and you reach out to pet the giraffe and it bites your fingers, and then you find the Ferris wheel breaks and then it starts raining and then people start being mean and say, I don't like this park anymore. Isn't there anything better? And so we start to seek. It starts to make us question seriously. Is there something better behind this imperfect world? Where is the perfection? Where is the joy that I'm intuitively knowing must be there? Because that's what it is. You can't convince anyone. Some people will argue and say it's not there. And maybe it isn't there for them yet. It will come. This is something also when first getting on the path devotees encounter of challenges. No, that's, don't be too serious on the path yet. And I had those challenges from all directions. And when I heard this reading for the first time, and it referred to that line in the Bible, I think it's St. Paul who said, God is not mocked. I just said, yes. Because people would say, no, earn money, invest in the stock market, then you will get to samadhi somehow through that. Or if not, at least you'll have lots of cash. And that is happiness, and anything else is meaningless. This was and it seemed to be the common thought. It wasn't that I could say, well, myself and these other 50 people disagree. It was myself and, these other people disagree, but they're kind of quiet right now, and I'm kind of alone against the raging horde. And so I said in my mind, I didn't quite have the guts to say it out loud very often in a family gathering, God is not mocked. I just because I knew the fruit of that living was nothing. But I couldn't convince anyone, and that was my mistake, to even bother to try. It's okay. No one likes to be sort of told, no, this is your way of life is wrong and so on. It's helpful if someone can say, this particular way of life brings joy. I have found it to be so, maybe you're interested. Inviting, offering, sure. But if someone says, I'm not interested, we don't have to jam it down their throats. Why was I trying to? Because I was trying to justify my own faith. Or at least I was wanting the beatings to stop. And so, it was also my own karma that drew that. I don't mean as punishment, because that's the point. Was the karma coming to further bind me? No, it was coming to free me. If nothing else, karma frees us, because when it finally all lands on us in a big, squashy pile, it's dissipated. You've paid off that debt. If you've survived, that karma is gone now. That energy is gone. Swamiji said sometimes we feel, for example, even despair after a huge worldly disappointment. And meaning despair is often the result of being disappointed in a worldly way. Some outward thing failed to happen. I don't mean just we didn't get the new car, we had to get the smaller, cheaper car. No, I mean that our friends betrayed us, something like that. That still on a human level. He said that even then there can be a sense of lightness, of having been freed of a karmic burden. And if you've been through that, it's a very surprising feeling, because on the one sense it's very upsetting, and on the other hand there's this sense of freedom. There's this sense of lightness. If nothing else, that I thought I couldn't handle that, and I have handled it, because here I am asking the question of whether I've handled it, which means I'm still alive. And so this can be very strengthening. In this way, karma comes to free us, even bad karma, meaning heavy karma. In fact, what is good karma? What is bad karma? Swamiji gave a very clear answer. Good karma is that which draws you closer to God. And bad karma is that which pulls you away. And pulls you away, I don't mean that we're victims just being pulled away by bad karma. I mean it lures. It calls, it distracts. It's still up to us. This is the great power of meditation, the great power of Kriya Yoga, that we can work through this karma internally and greatly accelerate our spiritual growth. But again, all meditation burns up karma, as Master said, which is a wonderful thought. Kriya Yoga does it particularly effectively. And this is something we should take to heart as devotees, because we really are here for soul release. What were we doing in the life before this? Getting ready for this life. And what are we doing in this life? Getting ready for freedom. And so, not getting ready for the next life. And so, in the past life, it was probably, as Master said, when he likened it to sleep. He said, if you want to know what you were in the last life, it's pretty much like what you are in this life. He said it's like going to sleep and waking up. When you go to sleep, and then wake up in the morning, you don't suddenly wake up to having turned into an angel. He said you are just the same as what you were before. Now, he doesn't mean you are just as bad as what we were before. He doesn't mean that. He just means, whatever it is, 8 hours have passed in sleep, or 4 in some cases, maybe speaking personally. And then we wake up pretty much 4 hours older, but taking up where we left off. Maybe you had an inspiring dream and that pushed you along, but otherwise, it's incremental. So the last life we probably gathered in a satsang like this and had talked about these things and had a nice time. And it could be that if we that we'll just keep on gathering in these satsangs until we finally want to get free, until we finally get out. There is progress. I don't mean to say that there isn't. But when we apply ourselves, there can be great progress. And that's really why we've all come to this path. And that's what we're here to do, is to get out. And so there will be all kinds of other fun things to do. We don't want to become fake and just say, the only thing that is real is spirituality and meditation. Because even though that's true, there is also reality on a human level. That's why we have spiritual communities. The spiritual path is very much solitary. It's you alone before God. At the same time, it's very helpful to have friends who share your ideals, who are headed in the same direction, who are interested in the same things you're interested in. We can't always spend every available hour in meditation effectively. We can certainly try, and yet at the same time, for most of us, after a few hours, meaning suppose all the bills are paid, there's a constant conveyor belt bringing idli and dosa whenever you want, nothing to worry about. Still, how long can we meditate effectively if all needs are taken care of? Serving, sharing that energy with others, putting ourselves into action in this world for the Guru is very helpful. Master said to be in tune with me, serve my work, particularly to the disciples, and which you all do. And so it's very helpful to have this balance. But also there is even a reality on a human level. Swamiji was once looking at Master and saying to himself, he's there, but he's also inside me. And he resides within me, and he was sort of trying to sort this out of Master being there and also here. And Master came over to him and handed him an apple with a smile, as if to say, don't overlook the human aspect of our relationship too. It was partly because Swamiji was grasping the cosmic aspect, that there's also the human aspect. For some people, they're too caught up in the human aspect, just seeing the Guru as a person or whatever, and relating to him in that way. Oh, he had such and such a family, he had such and such preferences, all that, which Master was none of those things. But then it would be more helpful to see the, as he said to Swamiji once in another context, if you knew my consciousness. It's, he was one with God, and he was here to make us one with God too, in reality, not imagination. And so, this story of Trailanga Swami too, as I said, listening to this reading, I was thinking of all the different times that I'd heard it, there's so much packed into that. It can be helpful for us too, because Trailanga was aware that God was present in his stomach, and was able to drain the poison, and it didn't affect him. And so we may find ourselves at time being offered calcium lime mixture and told that it is clabbered milk, especially when visiting relatives. And to say to yourself, I know God is present in my stomach and therefore it cannot harm me. If we prepare ourselves, we can handle anything. And why? Because then we cannot just get ourselves in ego entanglements, karmic entanglements. This is this immortal line from Autobiography of a Yogi. The thwarting cross currents of ego is what delays the karmic results from coming back to any of us. If without that ego involvement, the karma coming back is instant. It's always satisfying when you have instant karma, because it makes the lesson extremely vivid and clear. And were it only true that it was always that way, we would all be done by now. I remember being in a math class. I was a math teacher at an Ananda school, and there was a student there whose mother had also had some mathematical profession or something. Anyway, she was helping out in the classroom also, and as a sort of teaching assistant. And so I don't remember what had happened, but basically she was, as I said, the mother of one of the students. And I said to the student, the boy, something like, can you help your mother with something or other? I don't know what it was. I can't imagine at the moment. But could you help her? And he said, why? What has she done for me lately? You know, it's just some sort of slang, that phrase. And it was not my most centered moment. And I said, she gave you life. How about that? And and then I turned and then tripped over a chair and nearly broke my neck, but survived. And it was because the student was leaning forward in his chair so that the legs were sticking up, because he was leaning so far forward and that's what I tripped over. And I, already sort of fired up, I turned and I said, Peter! And he said, I'm sorry, but I can't help instant karma. And I was furious. Because he was right. There was nothing I could say. It's true. And so, it's so helpful when we get instant feedback in an impersonal way. My brother told me once he was on a volleyball court, and I don't remember what happened, but somebody said something to him that was kind of not nice, and he sort of turned and was thinking, this person, and at that moment the ball came and knocked him on the head. And instant karma, okay, right. Get it together. And so, our actions don't have to be dictated by the actions of others. We are not compelled to respond. Well, I only said that, but they said something much, no. Let us choose to act from within ourselves. Let us be the source of our actions. If we're going to look to models, let's look to the masters. Let's look to Swamiji and see how they are causes, not effects in this world, how they choose to act, not react. I always love the story of Master had many, not only disciples with him in the early years, but he wanted to spread this message all over America, and he didn't yet have people who were trained in sharing it because they were just meeting him. And so he enlisted the help of many other spiritual teachers, not many, maybe 5 or 6 or something, who in their own right were already sharing these teachings, and Master, invited them, let's all work together. And so I think it was one of these, but they all more or less turned against him and in fact took his teachings and said they were their own. And so that didn't work out very well, but of course I don't even remember one name of theirs, and everybody remembers Master's name, so it didn't do any great harm. But one of them, or someone who had been involved in the work earlier, was giving a public talk and said, is anyone here a member of Self-Realization Fellowship? A disciple of Paramahansa Yogananda. And a few people stood up, probably expecting him to say something nice about, of course, Master who had helped him. And instead he just launched into this diatribe against Master and was criticizing them and excoriating the whole path, basically to make himself look better. As Sri Yukteswar said, some people try to appear taller by chopping off the heads of others. So yeah, I'm taller than you now, It's ridiculous. And so he these students of Master's came back home to Mount Washington to see Master, so they were living there. They must have been disciples, obviously, just furious. And they said, Master, you won't believe what he said, and how in front of everybody, and all after all these. And Master said, I will speak to him. And they, okay. And so Dad's on it, so then they could go to bed and be at peace. And Master phoned the man and said, I just want to thank you for all you are doing to share the teachings of, God and the Masters to so many people. He was totally unthreatened by any of this, that what somebody said about me in public. And he also probably knew that if the person was this closed and this against him, how were they going to respond to anger, to a battle? That's probably what they were looking for. Swamiji had heard there was a man in town. There was a man who was a part of Ananda for a while. Then he left, and then he was still in town. And every now and then, I think he had a gas station or something, or he had some shop. So people from Ananda would happen to meet him in town. In any case, and he said, "One day I'm going to go up back to Ananda, and I'm going to give Kriyananda a piece of my mind." And so this word came back to Swamiji that this is what he said. He said he's going to come. And so here Swamiji heard this a few times, and he came in one Sunday morning, and he saw the man there. And so he walked in, and he walked right up to him, and he greeted him, hello, Bob, how are you? And Swamiji said, and then I paused because I was wanting to let him just give me a piece of his mind and just get it off his chest. And the man just looked at Swamiji and hugged him. Just in the face of it, he couldn't do anything but that, because he could feel that from Swamiji, probably. But in any case, it was a sincere move. It wasn't just that he didn't have the guts to say anything. That's often the case with people, but still. So, in any case, the point is, let us be causes in our life. Let us choose who we want to be, how we want to respond. And when we have difficult things, rather than, Swamiji said once, like we have hard karma coming to us, just say, I'm grateful to Divine Mother. I'm honored that she's giving me this test, that she's helping me to grow in this way, that she's offering me this chance for purification. Not that, thank God, she thinks that I'll survive it, I don't know how. Not like that, not in sort of a glum way, but just that in feeling her love for me, that she's trying to heal me, that I want to be healed, that I want to grow. I want to rise above my own limitations. I want to be one with God. God bless you.